biology students, we're moving into our second to last week of school. So we got week 31 and week 32 left. So in week 31, what's going to happen is you're going to finish looking at the last two sets of disorders, dissociative disorders, and then substance abuse and addictive and personality disorders. And then you're going to start working on the different types of therapies. And what I'd like for you, the first two, I think you're okay. You know what's exactly going on. And the therapies are pretty self-explanatory, but I want you to read the project at this point because you can get started. You don't have to get started. You could do it at the end, but I just want you to see what you're going to do for this. You're working on practicing diagnosing. So what you'll have is underneath here, you will see just a lot of cases, right? Page about 20, I think there's 20 cases. 20 cases. And you're not going to use all of these cases, so don't panic. Don't think you're going to do a whole bunch, right? What I want you to do is you're going to pick 5 cases, and really the only requirement of the 5 cases you pick is that they must be different diagnoses, different conditions. They can't be the same. All right, so you're going to have a formal diagnosis, what we used from the DSM, so you can go back. Remember, there's a page, you don't have the exact DSM-5, but I gave you on every one of these disorders. I'm just bringing it up. There was the criteria for it. All right, so everywhere you have the criteria for those disorders. So you need a diagnosis. You need a likely cause of the mental illness. This is singular here, but it technically could be plural, right? We don't necessarily have just one cause, but what could be the possible causes? If you were this person's doctor or therapist, what would you recommend for their treatment? Again, it's plural here because it might not be one. And prognosis is what can the person expect if the treatment is working. All right, you don't have to write a lot for these. You could write them as bullets, as numbers. All right, you can use any of the resources that we've used, plus there's a couple extra ones. And don't forget that on your diagnosis, you could have something that's comorbid, and comorbid means more than one diagnosis. So you could have, a primary and a secondary diagnosis. All right. So right now in the class, you don't really have anything to really discuss treatment, but if you wanted to read through the cases and pick out the 5 that you are going to work on, then when you're looking at treatment, you can kind of have those cases in your mind as you work through the rest of the week's work. All right, so that is week 31. And then next week, we're going to finish. In the last week, you finish the different types of treatments and you finish your project. I think projects, because we have 2 ongoing projects right now. So we have the stress project ongoing and then now this mental health project. And then you're done. So it's very cool. All right, if you have any questions, let me know.